The ancient castle of Valdoria stood majestically against the storm clouds gathering over the kingdom. Within its stone walls, a drama was unfolding that would shake the very foundations of the royal family. Lady Isabella Montclair, the new queen consort, sat in her private chambers, carefully sealing another letter with her personal wax seal. The flickering candlelight cast shadows across her face, revealing the determination in her eyes. Captain Marcus Thornfield had served the Royal Guard for 15 years, his loyalty to the crown unwavering until this moment. He stood hidden behind the heavy tapestries in the corridor, watching as Lady Isabella handed the sealed envelope to a hooded figure. This was the third such exchange he had witnessed in as many weeks, and his suspicions were growing stronger with each passing day. The kingdom of Valdoria had been ruled by the Blackwood dynasty for over 3 centuries. King Edmund Blackwood was a fair and just ruler, beloved by his people. When his first wife, Queen Catherine, had died in a tragic riding accident 5 years ago, the entire kingdom mourned. Prince William, the heir to the throne, had been devastated by his mother's death, finding solace only in his duties to the realm and his younger sister, Princess Charlotte. 2 years later, King Edmund had surprised everyone by announcing his engagement to Lady Isabella Montclair, a widow from a minor noble house in the neighboring kingdom of Astoria. The marriage had been politically advantageous, strengthening ties between the two realms, but many in the court whispered that it was too soon, that the king was being manipulated by the charming newcomer. Lady Isabella had arrived at court with little more than her beauty and wit, but she had quickly established herself as a force to be reckoned with. She was intelligent, well-read, and possessed an uncanny ability to charm even the most skeptical courtiers. Within months of becoming queen consort, she had gathered a circle of loyal supporters and had begun to influence the king's decisions in ways that made Prince William increasingly uncomfortable. Captain Thornfield remembered the day when his concerns had first begun to crystallize. He had been stationed outside the king's private study when he overheard a heated argument between father and son. Prince William had been questioning several recent policy changes that seemed to favor Astorian interests over Valdorian ones. The king had dismissed his concerns, attributing them to his son's natural resistance to change and his lingering grief over his mother's death. But Captain Thornfield had noticed other troubling signs. Several long-serving advisors had been quietly dismissed and replaced with individuals recommended by Queen Isabella. Trade agreements that had benefited Valdoria for decades were being renegotiated in ways that seemed less favorable to the kingdom. Most concerning of all, there had been whispers of secret meetings between Queen Isabella and Astorian diplomats. The hooded figure who had received the letter from Queen Isabella moved swiftly through the castle corridors, taking a route that avoided the main thoroughfares. Captain Thornfield followed at a distance, his training in stealth serving him well. The figure led him to a rarely used chamber in the castle's oldest wing, where 2 other individuals waited in the shadows. From his concealed position, Captain Thornfield strained to hear their conversation. The words that reached his ears sent a chill down his spine. They spoke of preparations, of timing, and of ensuring the transition of power. Most alarming of all, they mentioned Prince William by name, discussing him not as the rightful heir, but as an obstacle to be removed. The captain's mind raced as he processed what he was hearing. It seemed impossible, yet the evidence was mounting before his eyes. Queen Isabella appeared to be orchestrating some kind of plot against the royal family, possibly in collaboration with foreign agents. The letters she had been sending were not innocent correspondence but communications with conspirators. As the meeting concluded and the figures dispersed, Captain Thornfield made his way back through the castle, his thoughts in turmoil. His oath of loyalty bound him to protect the royal family, but how could he convince anyone of what he had witnessed? Queen Isabella was beloved by the king and had successfully cultivated an image of devoted wife and caring stepmother. Any accusations against her would need to be supported by irrefutable evidence. The next morning brought news that would change everything. A messenger arrived at dawn with word that the Astorian army was conducting large-scale military exercises near the Valdorian border. While presented as routine training, the timing seemed too convenient to be coincidental. Captain Thornfield felt his suspicions solidifying into certainty. Prince William received the news with visible concern. At 28 years old, he had proven himself to be a capable leader and military strategist. He had led Valdorian forces to victory in several minor conflicts, and was respected by both his soldiers and his people. But he was also known for his direct manner of speaking and his unwillingness to engage in the subtle games of court politics that Queen Isabella navigated so skillfully. During the royal council meeting that morning, Queen Isabella suggested that perhaps it would be wise to send an ambassador to Astoria to discuss the military exercises and ensure there was no misunderstanding. She recommended Lord Aldrich Westmere, one of her recently appointed advisors, for this crucial diplomatic mission. Prince William objected, arguing that such a mission should be led by someone with deeper knowledge of Valdorian military capabilities and concerns. The disagreement between stepmother and stepson was polite but pointed, and Captain Thornfield observed the subtle dynamics at play. Queen Isabella's suggestions were always reasonable on the surface, but they consistently seemed to place Valdorian interests in a subordinate position to Astorian ones. Prince William's objections, while strategically sound, were often dismissed by the king as being overly suspicious or influenced by his personal dislike of his stepmother. That evening, Captain Thornfield made a decision that would change the course of the kingdom's history. He began to document everything he had observed, creating a detailed record of the suspicious meetings, the personnel changes in the royal council, the policy shifts that favored Astoria, and the timing of the military exercises. He also began to discreetly investigate Queen Isabella's background, reaching out to contacts in other kingdoms who might have information about her past. What he discovered was troubling. Lady Isabella's first marriage had been to Lord Robert Montclair, a Valdorian noble who had died under mysterious circumstances just 2 years into their marriage. The official cause of death had been listed as a sudden illness, but there had been whispers of poison that were never officially investigated. More significantly, Captain Thornfield learned that Isabella's family had deep ties to the Astorian intelligence network, connections that had never been disclosed when she married King Edmund. Meanwhile, Queen Isabella continued her careful maneuvering within the court. She hosted elegant gatherings that brought together influential nobles, merchants, and foreign dignitaries. These events were ostensibly social occasions, but Captain Thornfield noticed that they often resulted in new agreements or policy changes that seemed to benefit Astorian interests. The Queen was building a network of support that extended far beyond the castle walls. Prince William, for his part, was becoming increasingly isolated. His attempts to raise concerns about the kingdom's direction were met with gentle rebuffs from his father and subtle undermining from his stepmother. Several of his closest allies among the younger nobles had been offered positions in distant provinces, effectively removing them from court. Princess Charlotte, still young and impressionable, had begun to view her stepmother as a maternal figure, further complicating the family dynamics. The breaking point came when Captain Thornfield intercepted another letter, this one containing explicit references to removing the obstacle and ensuring a smooth succession. The letter was written in code, but the captain's military training had included cryptography, and he was able to decipher enough of the message to understand its implications. Queen Isabella was not merely seeking to influence policy. She was planning something far more sinister. That night, Captain Thornfield made copies of all his evidence and secured them in multiple locations. He knew that confronting Queen Isabella directly would be futile and potentially dangerous. Instead, he would need to approach Prince William carefully, presenting his evidence in a way that would convince the heir to the throne without appearing to be driven by personal animosity or paranoia. The castle seemed different now, its familiar corridors feeling ominous and full of hidden threats. Captain Thornfield moved through his duties with heightened awareness, knowing that he was now in possession of information that could either save the kingdom or cost him his life. The loyal guard, who had once seen his role as straightforward protection of the royal family, now found himself at the center of a complex web of intrigue and betrayal. As the first part of this tale drew to a close, the stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of the kingdom of Valdoria. Queen Isabella continued her machinations, unaware that her secret correspondence had been discovered. Prince William remained focused on his duties, unaware of the full extent of the threat growing within his own family, and Captain Thornfield prepared to make the most difficult decision of his career, knowing that the wrong move could doom the kingdom to foreign control or civil war. The storm clouds that had gathered over the castle that first evening seemed prophetic now, promising a tempest that would test the loyalty, courage, and wisdom of all involved. In the halls of power, the silent coup was advancing according to plan, but a loyal guard's discovery would soon set in motion events that no one could have predicted. Dawn broke over Valdoria with an unusual stillness, as if the very air sensed the momentous events about to unfold. Captain Marcus Thornfield had not slept, instead spending the night rehearsing how he would present his discoveries to Prince William. The weight of the kingdom's future rested heavily on his shoulders as he made his way through the castle's awakening corridors. Prince William was in the castle's training yard, as was his custom each morning. Despite the royal duties that filled his days, he maintained the physical conditioning that had made him such an effective military leader. Captain Thornfield watched as the prince sparred with his weapons master, noting the focused intensity that characterized everything William did. This dedication to excellence would serve him well in the challenges ahead. "Your Highness." Captain Thornfield approached as the training session concluded. "I must speak with you on a matter of utmost urgency and discretion." Prince William studied the captain's grave expression and nodded. "Walk with me to the gardens. We can speak freely there." The castle gardens had been Queen Catherine's pride, and Prince William often sought solace among the roses his mother had planted. As they walked along the winding paths, Captain Thornfield began his carefully prepared revelation. He started with the suspicious meetings he had witnessed, describing them in precise detail to establish credibility. "You're certain of what you saw?" Prince William asked, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "Absolutely, Your Highness. But there is much more." Captain Thornfield produced copies of the intercepted letters, pointing out the coded language and its implications. These communications suggest a coordinated effort to undermine Valdorian sovereignty. Prince William studied the letters with growing alarm. His military training had included intelligence analysis, and he could see the patterns Captain Thornfield had identified. The references to timing, preparation, and removal of obstacles painted a clear picture of conspiracy. "My stepmother has always been ambitious," William said quietly, "but this suggests something far beyond mere political maneuvering. This is treason." The two men spent the next hour reviewing all of Captain Thornfield's evidence. The pattern was undeniable. Queen Isabella had systematically placed her supporters in key positions, negotiated agreements that favored Astoria, and maintained secret communications with foreign agents. The recent Astorian military exercises near the border now appeared to be positioning for potential invasion rather than routine training. "We need more concrete proof," Prince William decided. "If we're to confront my father with accusations against his wife, we must have evidence that cannot be disputed or dismissed." Captain Thornfield had anticipated this need. "Your Highness, I believe Queen Isabella will attempt to communicate with her contacts tonight. The Astorian military exercises are scheduled to conclude tomorrow, and any coordinated action would likely occur soon after. If we can intercept tonight's correspondence, we might uncover the full scope of their plans." That evening, Captain Thornfield and Prince William implemented their surveillance plan. The captain maintained his usual position while Prince William concealed himself in an adjacent chamber, positioned to witness whatever transpired. Queen Isabella's apartments were unusually busy, with several of her trusted servants making multiple trips to and from her private chambers. As the castle settled into its nighttime quiet, Queen Isabella emerged from her rooms carrying what appeared to be several letters. Her behavior was more cautious than usual, and she took an indirect route through lesser-used passages. The watchers followed at a distance, noting her eventual destination, the castle's ancient chapel, where she met with three hooded figures. From their concealed position, Prince William and Captain Thornfield watched as the most dramatic revelation yet unfolded. Queen Isabella handed over a detailed map of the castle's defenses, including guard rotations, and the locations of secret passages that only the royal family and their most trusted servants knew about. The implications were staggering. She was providing intelligence that would enable foreign forces to infiltrate the very heart of Valdorian power. "The king departs for his hunting lodge tomorrow." Queen Isabella spoke in hushed tones. "He will be accompanied by only a small guard. Prince William will remain here to handle administrative matters. This presents our opportunity." Prince William's blood ran cold as he heard his stepmother discussing what was clearly a planned attack. The hunting lodge was remote, with limited defenses, making the king vulnerable to an assault that could be disguised as bandits or wild animal attack. Meanwhile, the castle itself would be left with reduced defenses and compromised security information. "What of the princess?" one of the hooded figures asked. "Charlotte is young and malleable," Queen Isabella replied. "With proper guidance, she can be shaped to serve our purposes. A child regent under Astorian protection would be ideal for our long-term plans." The casual way Queen Isabella discussed using Princess Charlotte as a puppet ruler revealed the true depths of her betrayal. This was not merely political opportunism, but a comprehensive plan to subjugate Valdoria to foreign control while maintaining the appearance of legitimate rule. The meeting concluded with final instructions and the exchange of additional documents. As the conspirators dispersed, Prince William and Captain Thornfield retreated to plan their response. The hunting trip was scheduled to depart at dawn, leaving them precious little time to prevent disaster. "We must wake my father immediately," Prince William declared. But Captain Thornfield raised a concern that gave them both pause.
"Your Highness, consider the position we're in."
Queen Isabella has spent years building trust and influence. If we wake the king with accusations of treason against his beloved wife, based on overheard conversations and intercepted letters, will he believe us? Or will he see this as a son's jealousy and a guard's overreach? The dilemma was real and dangerous. King Edmund's affection for Queen Isabella was well known throughout the court. His judgment had already been compromised by her influence, as evidenced by the policy changes and personnel decisions that had weakened Valdoria's position. A direct confrontation without overwhelming evidence might result in Prince William and Captain Thornfield being dismissed or even imprisoned for sedition. Then we need to force the truth into the open, Prince William decided. If we can capture one of her conspirators and compel them to confess, my father would have to confront the reality of what's happening. They spent the remaining hours before dawn planning a careful trap. Captain Thornfield would intercept the next messenger carrying letters from Queen Isabella, while Prince William would prepare additional evidence from the castle's archives. If they could prove that previous accidents and illnesses among Valdorian nobles aligned with Queen Isabella's presence and interests, they could build a case that even King Edmund could not ignore. As morning approached, their plans were disrupted by an unexpected development. Princess Charlotte appeared in the corridor outside Queen Isabella's chambers, clearly distressed and seeking comfort from her stepmother. Prince William's protective instincts toward his younger sister created a new complication. Any action they took must ensure Charlotte's safety. Queen Isabella emerged to comfort the princess, and their conversation revealed another disturbing element of the conspiracy. Charlotte had been having nightmares about bad men coming to hurt her family, suggesting that the psychological pressure of living in a household with hidden agendas was affecting even the youngest member of the royal family. "Don't worry, my dear," Queen Isabella soothed Charlotte. "Soon all our troubles will be resolved, and you'll be safe with people who truly care about you." The double meaning in Queen Isabella's words was chilling. She was already preparing Charlotte for the transition that would follow the elimination of King Edmund and Prince William. The princess was being groomed to accept foreign protection as salvation rather than recognizing it as conquest. Captain Thornfield made a crucial observation as he watched this interaction. Queen Isabella's demeanor with Princess Charlotte was genuinely affectionate, but it was the affection of someone who saw the child as a valuable asset, rather than a beloved family member. This psychological manipulation was perhaps the most insidious aspect of her entire scheme. The morning of the planned hunting trip arrived with King Edmund in high spirits, eager for a few days of relaxation away from court duties. Queen Isabella bid him farewell with what appeared to be loving devotion, but Prince William now recognized the performance for what it was. Every gesture, every word was calculated to maintain her facade until the final moment. "I wish you could join us, William," King Edmund said as he prepared to depart, "but I know the kingdom is in good hands with you here." Prince William felt the bitter irony of his father's trust, knowing that staying behind was exactly what the conspirators wanted. However, it also provided the opportunity he and Captain Thornfield needed to expose the plot and prevent its success. As the royal hunting party departed, Queen Isabella began implementing the next phase of her plan. She called a meeting of the royal council, ostensibly to address routine matters of governance in the king's absence. However, Prince William noticed that several of the traditional council members were absent, having been sent on various errands that would keep them away from the castle. The council meeting revealed the sophistication of Queen Isabella's preparation. She presented proposals for emergency measures that would centralize authority during the king's absence, effectively placing crucial decisions under her influence. When Prince William objected to these unprecedented changes, she smoothly countered with references to similar measures taken during past royal absences. Though Captain Thornfield's research had revealed these precedents to be either misrepresented or entirely fabricated. The trap was set on both sides now. Queen Isabella was moving forward with her plans, confident that her opposition was unaware of the full scope of her conspiracy. Meanwhile, Prince William and Captain Thornfield were positioning themselves to capture the evidence needed to expose her treachery. The next few hours would determine whether the Kingdom of Valdoria would fall to foreign manipulation or be saved by the loyalty and courage of those who truly served the crown. The stage was set for a confrontation that would strip away years of careful deception and reveal the true nature of the woman who had charmed her way into the heart of power. In the corridors of the ancient castle, the silent coup was reaching its climax, and the moment of truth was fast approaching. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the castle windows, as Prince William and Captain Thornfield prepared to spring their carefully laid trap. Queen Isabella's confidence had grown throughout the day, and her movements had become less cautious. This overconfidence would prove to be her downfall. Captain Thornfield had positioned trusted guards at strategic points throughout the castle, men whose loyalty to the crown was absolute and whose discretion could be counted upon. These were veterans who had served under the previous queen and remembered the stability and honor that had characterized the realm before Isabella's arrival. Their positioning appeared routine, but it effectively created a surveillance network that would capture any suspicious activity. Prince William had spent the morning reviewing historical documents that Captain Thornfield had uncovered, building an even stronger case against his stepmother. The pattern of convenient deaths and political changes that had followed Isabella's path through various courts was undeniable when viewed as a whole. Lord Robert Montclair, her first husband, had not been her first victim, merely the most recent in a long line of obstacles that had been permanently removed. The first break in their investigation came when one of Captain Thornfield's positioned guards intercepted a messenger attempting to leave the castle through a seldom-used servant's entrance. The man carried letters bearing Queen Isabella's seal, addressed to contacts in 3 different kingdoms. Under questioning, the messenger revealed that he had been making such deliveries for months, paid handsomely for his discretion and his knowledge of routes that avoided official border crossings. The contents of these letters provided the final pieces of evidence Prince William needed. Queen Isabella had not merely been plotting against Valdoria. She had been coordinating with a network of agents across multiple kingdoms, working to destabilize the entire region. The goal was not simply to place Valdoria under Astorian control, but to create a series of puppet states that would serve the interests of a shadow alliance of foreign powers. "Your Highness," Captain Thornfield reported urgently, "one of these letters contains specific details about the attack planned for this evening. The king's hunting party will be ambushed at Raven's Pass, where the road narrows between 2 hills. The attackers will be disguised as bandits, but they are Astorian soldiers." Prince William felt ice in his veins as he realized how close they had come to losing everything. "How much time do we have? If we send our fastest riders now, we might reach the hunting party before they enter the pass. But we must also secure the castle and prevent Queen Isabella from escaping or destroying evidence." The next hour unfolded with military precision. Prince William dispatched his most trusted knights to intercept and protect the royal hunting party, sending them by different routes to ensure at least one group would reach the king in time. Meanwhile, Captain Thornfield coordinated with the loyal guards to quietly surround Queen Isabella's chambers and secure all possible escape routes. Queen Isabella was in her private study when Prince William entered, accompanied by Captain Thornfield and 4 guards. Her composure was remarkable. Even faced with the evidence of her treachery, she maintained the regal bearing that had served her so well in manipulating the court. "William, dear," she said with a smile that no longer seemed charming but predatory, "to what do I owe this unexpected visit?"
"You can drop the pretense, Isabella," Prince William replied, using her given name rather than her royal title.
"We know about the letters, the meetings, the planned attack on my father. Your conspiracy is exposed." For a moment, Queen Isabella's mask slipped, revealing the calculating intelligence that had orchestrated years of careful manipulation. Then, surprisingly, she began to laugh. "Clever boy," she said, settling into her chair as if she were hosting a pleasant social call. "I wondered when someone would finally piece it together. I must say, I'm impressed it was you rather than your father. He never could see past a pretty face and sweet words." The casual admission of guilt was more chilling than any denial would have been. Prince William realized he was seeing the real Isabella Montclair for the first time, stripped of all pretense and artifice. "Why?" he asked, genuinely seeking to understand the motivation behind such elaborate treachery.
Power, of course, Isabella replied, matter-of-factly.
Real power, not the decorative authority of a queen consort. Your father's kingdom was merely a stepping stone, a test of my abilities before moving on to larger prizes. Valdoria would have been well governed under my guidance, I assure you. The people would have prospered under the new order. Captain Thornfield stepped forward with shackles, but Isabella raised her hand in a gesture that somehow retained its commanding quality even in defeat. Before you arrest me, William, you should know that this changes nothing. The wheels are already in motion. Even if your riders reach your father in time, even if you expose my network, the instability has already been created. Other agents will continue the work I began. We'll see about that, Prince William replied grimly. He had anticipated this possibility and had already sent messages to allied kingdoms warning them about the conspiracy and sharing the intelligence they had gathered. As Captain Thornfield secured Queen Isabella, she made one final revelation that struck at the heart of the royal family. Your precious mother Catherine didn't die in a riding accident, you know, she said with vicious satisfaction. That was my first success in Valdoria. She was asking too many questions about Astorian trade agreements, becoming inconveniently patriotic in her influence over your father. The confession hit Prince William like a physical blow. The beloved queen, whose death had devastated the kingdom, had been murdered by the woman who had taken her place. The layers of betrayal seemed endless, each revelation more painful than the last. You're lying, William said. But even as he spoke, he could see the truth in Isabella's satisfied expression. The poison was subtle, designed to mimic the effects of internal injuries from a fall. I had to wait 2 years before presenting myself as a suitable replacement, but patience is a virtue I've cultivated well. Captain Thornfield quickly led the former queen consort away before she could inflict any more psychological damage, but the harm was already done. Prince William now understood that his family had been under attack for far longer than anyone had realized, and that Isabella's influence had shaped their lives in ways they were only beginning to comprehend. The evening brought a series of rapid developments that would reshape the kingdom's future. The royal knights had successfully intercepted King Edmund's hunting party just minutes before the planned ambush, capturing several Astorian soldiers in the process. The king's initial disbelief at his son's warnings had turned to shock and then rage, as the evidence of his wife's treachery became undeniable. Princess Charlotte's reaction to learning about her stepmother's true nature was heartbreaking. The young girl had genuinely loved Isabella, and the revelation that this affection had been calculated manipulation left her confused and traumatized. Prince William took personal responsibility for his sister's emotional recovery, understanding that the psychological wounds might take years to heal. The political ramifications extended far beyond Valdoria's borders. The intelligence gathered from Isabella's correspondence exposed similar operations in neighboring kingdoms, leading to a coordinated effort to root out the network of agents and sympathizers. Several minor nobles and merchants who had been compromised by bribes or blackmail came forward to confess their involvement, hoping for clemency in exchange for information. King Edmund aged visibly in the weeks following the revelation of his wife's betrayal. The man who had ruled with confidence and wisdom for decades now questioned every decision he had made during Isabella's influence. The policies that had seemed reasonable at the time now appeared as calculated steps toward Valdoria's subjugation. How could I have been so blind? The king asked his son during one of their many conversations about rebuilding the kingdom's security and governance. She was extraordinarily skilled at deception, Prince William replied. She spent years studying you, learning exactly what you wanted to hear and how to present her manipulations as loving support. Even now, knowing the truth, I can see how persuasive she was. The trials that followed became a sensation throughout the region. Queen Isabella faced charges of treason, murder, conspiracy, and espionage. Her defense was minimal. She seemed almost proud of the scope and sophistication of her operations. The evidence was overwhelming, and the testimony from captured accomplices painted a picture of a conspiracy that had taken years to develop and implement. During her final statement before sentencing, Isabella maintained her composure and her conviction that her actions had been justified. History will judge whether I was a criminal or a visionary, she declared. I offered this kingdom a path to greater prosperity and influence than it could ever achieve on its own. Your narrow nationalism and fear of change have cost you an opportunity that will not come again. The sentence was death, to be carried out in the traditional manner reserved for those who had betrayed the crown. Prince William had argued for life imprisonment, but the evidence of Queen Catherine's murder had inflamed public opinion beyond any possibility of mercy. The people of Valdoria demanded justice for their murdered queen, and for the years of subtle oppression they had endured. In the months that followed Isabella's execution, Valdoria began the long process of recovery and reform. Prince William implemented new security measures for the royal family and the kingdom's governance, including background investigations for anyone seeking positions of influence and regular audits of trade agreements and policy changes. The kingdom's relationship with Astoria became strained, as evidence emerged of official knowledge and support for Isabella's activities. Diplomatic negotiations eventually led to reparations and the extradition of several Astorian agents, but trust between the two realms would take generations to rebuild. Princess Charlotte gradually recovered from the trauma of her stepmother's betrayal, aided by counseling from the kingdom's wisest advisors and the loving support of her father and brother. The experience had matured her beyond her years, and she developed a keen interest in statecraft and security that would serve her well in her future role as a leader. Captain Marcus Thornfield was elevated to the position of Royal Security Advisor, a new position created to prevent future infiltrations of the castle and court. His loyalty and dedication had saved the kingdom, and his expertise in counterintelligence became a model for other realms seeking to protect themselves from similar conspiracies. King Edmund eventually remarried, choosing Lady Margaret Fairfax, a widow from a distinguished Valdorian family whose loyalty and character had been thoroughly verified. The union was based more on mutual respect and shared commitment to the kingdom's welfare than on passion, but it provided stability and helped restore confidence in the royal family's judgment. Prince William's role in exposing the conspiracy enhanced his reputation throughout the kingdom and beyond. His decisive action and political acumen demonstrated that he was ready to assume greater responsibilities in governance. The experience had also taught him valuable lessons about the subtle nature of political threats and the importance of maintaining vigilance against those who would exploit trust and affection for their own purposes. The silent coup that had threatened to destroy the kingdom of Valdoria had been defeated, but the scars it left behind served as permanent reminders of the price of complacency. The royal family and their subjects had learned that true security required not just strong walls and loyal guards, but also the wisdom to recognize that threats could come disguised as love and support. In the end, the strength of Valdorian institutions and the loyalty of its people had proven stronger than the most sophisticated conspiracy. The kingdom emerged from the crisis more unified and more aware of the value of the freedoms and traditions that Isabella had sought to undermine. The tale of the silent coup became a cautionary story told throughout the realm, ensuring that future generations would be better prepared to recognize and resist such threats to their sovereignty and way of life.